Okay. All right, so thank you for joining us today for EndNote Advanced. My name is Crystal Brunye. I'm the manager of the Academic and Research Librarian team here at CDU Library, based at Casuarina. And joining me today as well is Lisa Ban, one of our Academic and Research Librarians. So we'll be walking you through some more advanced features of EndNote in today's session and answering questions along the way. So just before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that we're in the lands of the Larrakia people here in beautiful sunny Darwin today, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd extend that respect to First Nations peoples on all of the campuses that the CDU has, and you can see them listed there on the screen. And feel free to list the First Nations people of the nations that you're joining from in the chat today as well. So what will this session cover today? So this session, if you like, is a follow-on session from our EndNote Essentials class, which really aims at getting you started with using EndNote. So this session assumes knowledge of EndNote already, assumes that you have been using it and that you're aware of the features of both the EndNote program and how to use the cite while you write features in Microsoft Word as well. So this program will cover more of the advanced features, which include things like importing PDFs into your EndNote library, creating and using terms lists to group your references, using groups in EndNote, covering how to share your library as well, and using the online libraries and other features such as EndNote Click. So if you are wanting a refresher, you can access that EndNote Essentials workshop on the CDU Library EndNote subject guide, which is easily accessible through the QR code on your screen. So if you're finding today's content something a little bit above what you were looking for, you can go back and find a recording of that session on the website there. So throughout the session, we will be taking, and I encourage you to put any questions you have in the chat. So especially if you have any specific questions, because as I mentioned, there are several librarians on the chat today who can help with those questions as well. Okay, so if you're a longer term user of EndNote, you'll be aware that EndNote has different versions. And so we are currently using EndNote 21 here at CDU Library. This was newly released just this year and has a very similar look and feel to EndNote 21. If you've used versions prior to 21, you'll be aware that there was a significant change to the interface from EndNote 20 to 21. Or from EndNote version 9 to EndNote 20. And so in this version, every time that EndNote release new versions, they have newer features. And then every time they've got an update to those versions, there'll be newer features again that are released with that update. So some of the newer features in EndNote 21 is the ability to add tags to your items in your EndNote library, the new EndNote web interface, enhanced recovery options for files that are lost or damaged using EndNote Cloud, and increased sharing functionalities as well. One of my more favorite newer features of the EndNote library is the retracted papers feature as well. So that was something that came out in the last, I think it was 2 updates ago in EndNote 21. So what that means is for papers that you have found in your searching, there is now a feature in EndNote that will mark those papers as retracted if they have been retracted. So there's always new updates and developments, and whatever you remain affiliated with CDU, you'll have access to those new updates and those new updated versions as they're released. Okay, so important to note and to bookmark if you haven't already is the CDU EndNote guide. So this is, if you like, your one-stop shop 24/7 available for all EndNote questions. It provides recordings of previous training classes, including EndNote Essentials and EndNote Advanced. It gives you the links to download the CDU styles or referencing styles. It includes information about how to sync your library and to access those frequently asked questions as well. So you can access that from both the QR code on your page there or using the URL at the bottom of the page on your screen. And this is a really great page to bookmark so that you have that there in your bookmarks toolbar and can access it at one click of a button. Okay, so this is what EndNote looks like. So if you're a seasoned user of EndNote already, you'll know this, and so you'll know how it looks. So you've got your main menu options at the top of the screen that allow you to navigate through the features of your EndNote library and to find the functions of how to perform different tasks. You can search using the search features in your EndNote library as well, using the prominent search bar, and then you've got also simple and advanced search features as well. In the main part of your library are the lists of your references, and you can see that it defaults to all references when you open your EndNote library. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can navigate through your library and set up groups there as well. So you can see under groups, you can set up several different groups. When you first open up EndNote, you'll remember that this is blank and that you have the ability to set up your own groups. On the far right hand side of the screen, that is where you can see the details of the item that's highlighted from your library. And you've got the option to see a summary of the information, which gives you the quick view details. The edit screen, which allows you to make any changes to your records, and the PDF tab, which allows you to display a copy of the PDF if you have one attached to your reference. Okay, so if you're needing to change the information that appears in your EndNote library, so in that middle column, you can do that easily by looking for and finding the cog wheel icon on the top right-hand side corner of that library screen, and then you can change the fields that are displayed under the Preferences tab. So you'll see Display Fields as one of the options, and then you can change which fields show in your EndNote library. This is especially handy if you're wanting to change the default features of your EndNote library and instead change it to something that means something to the research that you're doing or your area of study. So you can describe, I know that one of the default fields is as a record or an item number in EndNote. That's not useful for most people, so that's something you can hide, and you can change it instead to something that is. You can also change the order that they appear, and you can do that here in this screen as well. So what happens if you have multiple libraries? Well, one of the things you're likely to see, and is going to give you a clue, is if you have numbers appearing after the references when you have inserted a reference into EndNote, into your Word document. So this is a clue that you have multiple libraries set up, and that's a problem. So because you're not going to know which library that refers to. So because of that, we recommend that you keep one library. And instead, when you're needing to separate out different groups, you create those groups in your EndNote library. So that will stop this problem happening with duplicating different references. It will minimize the chance of any problems happening when you're syncing your library, and it keeps all of that data together and keeps the library files together as well to stop them from getting lost. I'll also mention here, I'm sure it's mentioned later, the importance of saving your EndNote library as a compressed copy. So you will be aware that your EndNote library is made up of two files, a .data and a .enl file. Those files need to be saved together for your EndNote library to work correctly. So it's a good idea to do that by creating a compressed copy of your EndNote library. So I've mentioned there that that's to stop this kind of problem from happening, to have one copy of your master library or your EndNote library and to back it up regularly. That's a good tip as well to mention, that when you make changes to your EndNote library, it's every time you make a change or you add references, you should add, thank you, Leonard, no worries. So whenever you make changes to your EndNote library, make sure that you save another copy of your EndNote library compressed in multiple different locations. So save a copy on your desktop, save a copy on an external hard drive, save a copy on a USB drive, and make sure that whenever you update your EndNote library, you also update those saved copies as well. Okay, we'll keep on going. Okay, so I jumped the gun there. So that's when I mentioned about backing up your EndNote library. So making sure that you can create that compressed copy of your EndNote library. I will mention, I've mentioned it because it's important. So it will stop your data from being lost, or from your EndNote library from not working. When you go to open it again, it saves those two files together. So there's instructions there for how to do it in your EndNote library. It's really prominent in the file menu of EndNote and allows you to do that easily. Okay, so going on to EndNote Web. So recommend that you use EndNote Web, and that when you do this, you'll need to create a separate account. This can then be used to sync and back up between your online and desktop versions. So it's another fail-safe, if you like, for using EndNote. So it will allow, you can still use your EndNote desktop version to manage your citations in Word. It will create another sort of backup copy for you by using EndNote Web. Okay, EndNote Click is a browser extension that will allow you to, in one click or one simple step, send references to your EndNote library. So you can do that by installing the browser extension through your EndNote library, and that then adds that EndNote or logo into your browser. And you'll notice then when you go into find references, or when you're looking or searching for articles, that you'll see a purple icon with View PDF and EN on the article itself, and that will then allow you to seamlessly add that to your EndNote Locker. What I will say about EndNote Locker is it has a limited capacity to your EndNote library, so it will save it as and allow you to, if you're on a roll with searching, for example, it will allow you to save several documents at a time into that locker, and then you can then move them from your locker into your EndNote library. So if you like, it's like a short-term storage solution for then adding it to your EndNote library. So yeah, the note there is to save it in your locker and then export it to your library. Okay, moving along to sharing your library. So this is something you might want to do if you are working with a team of researchers and building, say, depending on your research project, you're building a combined EndNote library and you might want to share that with your team. You can do that from within EndNote. And so you can sync it first with your online account, and then once you've done that, you can share it out by email to the people who are in your group. And so you can choose the level of access that you allow those people as well to your EndNote library. You can also share particular groups as well. So if you are just wanting to share a particular group of resources, you don't need to share your entire library. You could share that particular group if that makes more sense for you and for your project. So again, by putting all of those references into that group and then sharing them from there. Now, you should all be aware of importing PDFs into your EndNote library. And so just a reminder that every reference in your EndNote library can support up to 45 file attachments. And so they don't need to be necessarily, what that means is that you can upload support files as well. So notes that are made, things that relate to the article, or relate to your research about the article. So you can do that individually onto each record by using the file menu and using import and then importing separate files. You can also import a folder of files as well, all through that import menu. Another way of adding PDFs is to search to find the PDFs as well from your EndNote library. So just a note that EndNote won't be able to locate every PDF. It finds PDFs based on the access that we have at CDU. So if we don't have access to the article at CDU, or it isn't a freely accessible article, EndNote won't be able to locate it. The best chance to allow EndNote the best chance to locate the PDF copies, I recommend going to the EndNote Styles and Connections link on the EndNote guide and making sure that you download the CDU library connection file, and that will allow you to connect your EndNote library to the resources that we have access to at the CDU library. But you can locate PDFs easily by selecting them in your EndNote library, going to the References tab, and clicking on Find Full Text. It doesn't, if you've tried that before, you will know that it doesn't happen automatically, and it doesn't give you any kind of notification that it's done. It just sort of takes a little bit of time before the PDFs will start to appear, and then you'll see them attached in your EndNote library. And depending how many records you have, it can take quite a bit of time. You also have the ability in EndNote to change or alter the way that terms appear. So if you're noticing a repetitive error in your references, or the way that so a good example there that's given on the screen is where you've got author names that appear in multiple different ways. Obviously, you would want those to appear in one way. You can alter that in the terms list. You can do the same thing in the journals terms list for journals that are consistently abbreviated. So you can change the author, the journal name to be the one term. And so you can do that in those terms list under the library screen as well. I mentioned about groups before, so you have the ability to create groups in EndNote, and you also have the ability to create smart groups. And what this allows you to do is to set a group up that will add those references whenever they meet certain criteria, such as meeting certain keywords or authors or years. They will automatically add that to that particular group in your EndNote library. I recommend trying it. It's pretty cool. So what that means is, so you can send all your research to your EndNote library. And if you've created smart groups for those, so say you've done a day's worth of searching and you found all of your articles that are based on your research, that will then find those key terms or the terms that you have set in your smart groups and automatically assign them into those groups when they hit your EndNote library. So what that means is when you open up your EndNote library the next time, instead of seeing ungrouped resources that you will then need to manually assign to those groups, they'll all be in those smart groups for you that you have set up. So it's worthwhile investment, can take a bit of time, but it saves you that time instead of having to group those references at the end. Okay, so a new feature in here, I don't think, no, this isn't a new feature. This is the ability to add a ranking or to mark the items as read. So in EndNote, you have the ability to also add a rating scale. So this is handy if you're using your EndNote library to with others to grade or select papers based on the research. So you can mark them as read so that keeps a note of which ones you have already finished with. And then you can also rate them so that you can then have that discussion about which papers you want to include or exclude based on separate criteria. As well as being able to mark these using the rating scales and these mark as read features, you can also annotate the PDFs as well. If you've saved a PDF into your EndNote library, you can highlight, you can add crossouts, and you can add comments onto items as well. So if there's that extra functionality that you can add into your EndNote library. Okay, this is the new feature that I was talking about, adding tags. So this is new to EndNote 21. This allows you to create customizable tags that you can then assign to your readings. And you can see that they then appear in your EndNote list, in your main list here. And you can set them up to be anything you like. So they're fully customizable to you and to your research. And you can add more than one tag to a reference as well. And they're handy, they can be viewed when you share your library as well. So if you are doing that collaborative work, other people will be able to see the ratings or the tags that you've applied to an item. Okay, so the EndNote toolbar in Word is the home for the Cite While You Write features. So once you've got your references uploaded into EndNote, the Cite While You Write toolbar is where you would use those different features. So we'll go into that a little bit later. You can see how you can edit your style that's listed there in the Cite While You Write toolbar. You can change it there. We always recommend when people are working within Word to align their style with the style that is in EndNote. So you can set your referencing style in EndNote. I think that's good practice overall anyway, because you can see the way that the reference will look in EndNote. It will show you the way that your in-text reference and reference list entry will look. You can also go to your EndNote library using the Cite While You Write tool. So that's handy if you're wanting to search within your EndNote library while you are writing, just to make sure that you've got the right references and you're referring to the right material. You can see the prominent insert citation icon on the left-hand side. That is where you can insert either the highlighted citation that you have listed in your EndNote library, or you can search within your EndNote library in Cite While You Write to find the appropriate citation. When you have made any changes, you'll be aware if you've used Cite While You Write. you need to make any changes to those references or to the citations in your EndNote library. So once you've done that, you can then update them in your Word document by using the Update Citations and Bibliography option there. And say you were finished with your document, you were ready to submit either for publication or for marking, you would need, or you were sending that to someone who didn't have access to your EndNote library, you will need to convert your citations and bibliography to plain text. Otherwise, anyone who doesn't have access to your library will have a pop-up message asking them for access when they go to open that document. So it's important to remember to convert it to a plain text. So that's just an overview of those features from EndNote in Word. So when you're using Word to insert citations as well, you've got two options. You can insert using the Insert Citation button in Word, and that will allow you to either insert that selected citation, which is highlighted in your EndNote library, or to do a search and to find the appropriate citation using those features. You can also insert directly from EndNote as well. So if you are searching through your EndNote library to find the appropriate citation, you can use the double quotation marks icon to insert that into your Word document as well. And as I mentioned, when you're making any kind of edits or removing citations that are attached to your EndNote library within Word, you will need to do that using the editing features in the Cite While You Write bar. So you can see that those options there. You've got the options when you click on a reference, it will highlight that reference. And then when you go in to edit that, you have the options to change the format. So if you are using the author's name, for example, as part of your writing, you can choose to display as author and the brackets, in brackets year. If you had used the author as part of your previous work and were just wanting to put the year in and to add the citation, you would then exclude the author. So there's those options there. And the more advanced options as well is if we're needing to do things like add a page number, you can do that by clicking on add a reference and adding that suffix as well to allow for the page numbers to be included as part of the citation, depending on the type of referencing that you're doing. And again, you'll need to remember to use the Cite While You Write features to remove the citation as well. Okay, so just a few handy hints for what to remember when you're using EndNote. And I've already mentioned some of these already. So it's a good idea to use the one EndNote library and to back it up regularly. So stay away from the temptation to create multiple EndNote libraries based on your different publishing or different assignments, different projects. That's what groups can be used for. If you needed to edit citations or references, best to do that in EndNote. And in fact, once you've used Cite While You Write, that's the only way to edit those citations as well. Use the same referencing style. I mentioned this before, so keep them consistent across EndNote and Word. And a big thing that we cover in EndNote Essentials is to make sure that you're checking your references regularly. So it's important to know your referencing style and to know the conventions of that style and make sure that you're checking them, just looking over them and making sure that they're correct. Remember that EndNote is a database. It's a great database, but it only works with the information that you give it. So you need to still make sure that those references are correct and they make sense according to the style. Use those more advanced features in EndNote to organize and to group your EndNote library. So using groups and removing duplicates. So that's another thing that you should be doing regularly, and you can use the features in EndNote to remove the duplicates in your EndNote library. Another thing that we see quite commonly in author names is neglecting to add a comma after the full corporate author name. So if you've got a corporate name, an organization name, a government department, the comma, instead of appearing after the surname, appears after the full organization name. This will ensure that that corporation name is listed in full in your in-text reference. And to make sure that you're using the terms list to enter author names consistently. And so again, if you're noticing those repeated errors, you can change those and you can update those using the terms list as well. Okay. So before we jump into a live demo, I'll take you through some of the information and links that you can use to find help if you're struggling. So I mentioned the CDU Library EndNote Guide. That's available at that URL on the screen and the QR code. It's a really great page to make sure that you've bookmarked so that you have it there available when you have a question. And you can find those frequently asked questions under top tips on that page, and that will help you to locate that information whatever time of day or night you're using EndNote. Another great place to look for information or support if you can't find your answer on the EndNote guide is on the EndNote Clarivate support pages. So that's available at the bottom QR code there, or the URL at the bottom of the screen. And there's a really great site to be able to ask the EndNote user community for help or assistance with how to do a particular feature or to troubleshoot something in EndNote if you're getting stuck. And the final slide here before we jump into the more interactive live session is just our information if you do have any further or future questions following on from today's session. So you can email us any time of the day or night using that email address, askthelibrary@cdu.edu.au. You can also give us a phone call using the phone number there, 0889467016. And you can also find an extensive list of the frequently asked questions that we have answered already on the CDU Library website at that URL there as well. If you're wanting some more personalized one-on-one attention, or you have some in-depth questions, you can book an appointment with a librarian. So you can do that using the QR code on the screen there, or at the URL that's on the screen as well. And that way you can make an appointment and have some time with a library staff member to go through any kind of particular issues that you have. If you've experienced a difficulty with using EndNote, or have noticed a problem that you can't find an answer to and would like someone to come and talk with, that can be a really useful avenue as well. Okay, so what I might do now, I might open up my EndNote library and I'll show you some of those features now. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Okay, so my EndNote library is just opening up now. Okay, so this is my EndNote library. I have not cleaned it yet, so I apologize for that. But I think this is always a good teachable moment to be able to show people a few things about what happens if you let things go and don't clean them up. So you can see that I've got 5,490 references. And one of the things I wanted to show you in particular was how to find duplicates in your EndNote library. So first of all, if I was to highlight a particular section of references, and there's a few features here on the reference tab I'll point out while I've got it open. So you can see here that you've got the ability to see file attachments, find full text, which will let me look for PDFs attached, so I could do that and find the full text for those references, because you can see that I've only got one that's got a PDF currently. So you can see what I mean about it not looking like it's doing anything right now, except when it does. So when it finds the PDFs, this is what will happen. And then it will just automatically attach them to those records. And I'll keep doing that until it can't find any more. And again, it doesn't give you any kind of message about it having finished checking the selection. It just stops. So while that's going, I'll see if I can find some more information. So I wanted to see about finding duplicates. There we go, under the library tab here. So if you click on the library tab and then click on find duplicates, this will then highlight those records that EndNote thinks are duplicate. And where this is really handy is it tells you which record ID or record number those are. So if you have already been working in a Word document and adding references, this is where this is important to check those numbers and make sure that the document or the reference that you're deleting, if you choose to delete one of the duplicates, is not the one that you've already linked to. If you do delete a duplicate of a reference that you have used in a document, it will remove that linkage and so remove that reference. So you will need to re-add that into your Word document. Again, you can see here on this screen, it brings up the data about those, about the reference. And importantly, you can see here that we've got different information. So these appear to be the same publication. But you can see here that we've got the journal has been listed in two different ways. So if we were, say this was a record, we wanted to keep this one, but we knew that we had other records that were from this journal, and this is the way that we had listed that term, we would need to then go and edit that term in the terms list to change it to this journal title if that's what we wanted to keep. So once you've gone through and checked them, you can decide which record you keep. And so say I was going to keep this one. It will then keep bringing up those potential duplicates for the references that you have in your EndNote library. And so say you didn't have time for that right away, you could skip different records or you could cancel that operation, come back when you do. But I'm going to cancel out of that now. But that's something that you could do when you've uploaded references into your EndNote library. As a rule, I would then come in and check those references, check your EndNote library to make sure that you were accounting for and getting rid of any duplicates at that time. Okay, so what else did I want to, just making sure I've covered the main points. I will point out the sharing functions as well. So that's a more advanced feature in EndNote. So when you do have the option of sharing your EndNote library, so you can do that here under the File menu and click on Share. Now you can see here that I've currently got my EndNote library shared with two other people. One person who has two different accounts. So when you come here for the first time and you haven't shared your library, you'll need to add the email address in for the person that you're wanting to share your library with. You can then assign the permissions that you've given to that person, and you can add in a message as well. Once you've done that, you'll have this button will become ungrayed, and you can send your sharing request. You will also have the ability to open shared libraries from people as well. So if we go back to, if I click on the file menu and then click on open shared library, I'll then be able to see the people who shared their libraries with me, and I can open that shared library by just selecting the library that I want, and that will then open their library. Lisa, I can see yours is much cleaner, read empty, than mine. But that will allow you access to that EndNote library. Okay, another important thing I'll point out, you can see my EndNote library. I've given it this name of my name, EndNote Library Compressed. And so what that means is this is my main EndNote library. I've saved a compressed copy of this in multiple locations, including the Google Shared Drive, including my desktop, and including my USB thumb drive. If you're wanting to save your library, you can do that here. This is where you compress your library. So this will save both of those EndNote files together in the one place. This is what we recommend. You can save a copy as well, but I would make sure that you've saved your compressed copy. Whenever you've made big changes to your library, you update that compressed copy in different locations. And because it's the compressed one, I would call it compressed. Okay, we mentioned tags as well. So this is a new item menu in EndNote 21. This is where you go to create and manage your tags. So you can create a new tag. I think, let's see, I'm just going to add this in. I'm going to give health a green or blue label. I'm going to create that tag. And once I've created the tag, unless I've assigned something to it, there'll be nothing there. But then I can go into, so let's just, I want to add these ones. I'm going to right click on manage tags. I'm going to assign health to that, click OK. Then if I go back to my tags, that article is then showing in my health tags, and I can see all of the tags I've created. They're under the My Tags menu, and their associated documents as well. Now, I'm going to jump around a bit here, but while we're here, I'll point out the Find Full Text menu item here. So whenever you have asked EndNote to search a particular section of your EndNote references, they will appear here in the Find Full Text menu. So it's told me of that selection that it found 10 URLs, it found 9 PDFs, and it didn't find 2. So if I go back up to my EndNote library, and I'm going to sort by, because I don't want to pick up things that I've already got a PDF for, but okay. And then I'm going to find full text, do a search again for full text. Now, if I scroll down while that's looking, you can see here that we've got searching for 20 records. So when I said there was no way of checking, what I meant is it doesn't pop up with one of those messages. You can see here the action that EndNote is taking to find those PDFs that are attached to those records. And so it's still searching for 10. And those titles are updating as it's going. Okay. So I'll mention here as well the terms lists. This is where you find the terms list under the library tab, and you can open up those terms lists here. And this is where you'll see the different terms that you've got. So open up the authors terms list. These are all of the authors that are in my EndNote library. And so say you wanted to edit one of those, you click on edit term, and that will allow you to change or make the change to that term. And so I'm trying to find if I've got any easily. Anyway, that's where you will find them to be able to change them. Okay. Now, mentioned about EndNote Click before. Under the Tools menu here, this is where you can find the browser extension to install EndNote Click. So if you haven't got it already, I recommend trying this, going into your EndNote library and installing the EndNote Click extension to be able to then add that sort of one-click extension to add the PDFs or add the references to your EndNote library. It removes those extra steps of needing to find the PDF links, or not the PDF links, the links to download to EndNote. Okay, so that in a nutshell is the more advanced features that are in your EndNote library. So I'll open it up now for questions. If you have any questions, Amy? Or you'd like me to show you anything in particular?
No, Hugh, not at the moment.
No worries. All right. Well, if there is anything,
Crystal, just with the sharing of the library, initially, yes, it will look like it's empty. You're just going to have to be patient. So, Amy, if someone has shared the library with you and you open it and it shows up completely empty, just leave it sitting there. Crystal shared hers with me, and I opened that probably about 5-10 minutes ago, and it's still only on 3,500, so it still hasn't quite arrived there. So it doesn't happen instantaneously. It'll just
yeah. Thank you for that.
Move
Lisa.
on, do something else, and it'll happily chew away until things arrive.
Oh, that's good to know. That's really good to know.
So yeah, mine shouldn't take too long, as there's only about 800 items in there. So
okay, well, I've got it open now. So,
but yeah, it just takes a little bit of time. So if it shows up empty initially, don't worry about it. Just let it sit.
No, that's great. All right, well, if you do have any other questions, Amy, as you're going along, especially when it comes to the Cite While You Write features, and if you experience any particular difficulty with using that, please do get in touch with us here at the CDU Library. You can send us through an email to askthelibrary@cdu.edu.au. If you can't find the answers on the CDU EndNote subject guide. Otherwise, I think that will bring us to an end to the session. So thank you so much for attending today.